Good afternoon, everyone. Sunday. STIHL MS461. I finally got my piston for this. This crankcase is filthy. This will be going in the parts washer. Pulled all the accessories off. Just trying to keep this video a little shorter. This is the crank splitter. So basically what this does is it holds the bearing on the inside and pushes the crank off. This is an aftermarket one. Let's see. This thing's gonna split nicely. For the price that these aftermarket splitters cost, I find, there you go, that was easy. I find that they're worth it. If you can see, the end of this one is starting to get really beat up. I have a lathe. So I'll just throw this over here. There you go, there's your crank. You hear that? That's the sound of a dead bearing. I have a lathe, so I'm gonna make a new tip for that out of a piece of drill rod. But yeah, for what these cost, I mean, they're excuse me, they're a good tool to have, because really you can't do this. I mean, you could do this with a press. They're a good tool to have in your toolkit. The key is when you're putting this on, you want to make it as level as possible. I'm not sure how good this video is going to turn out, but there you go. She'll go kapop like that. Okay, there you go, crank splitter. It's the best way to do this. Looking at these bearing surfaces, they don't appear to be galled. Put your crank in the center, up and down, no play. It will rock side to side, that's normal. Sometimes it'll have a little more play on the edge. You want it right in the middle. So there we go, this crank's minty. It's a very low hour saw. You can feel this bearing's really crunchy. That's not the bad one though. There you go. That's exactly what I thought I would find. This race, the plastic bearing race, has disintegrated and all the bearings are on one side, and what ends up happening is you end up with a huge amount of play in that center race because it's not evenly supported. Unfortunately, that's how new saws are. They all seem to have plastic bearing races. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. What's cool though is this didn't spin in the case, so these cases are like brand new. This saw is pretty clean. It's been thrown in and out of a truck many times. There's a gasket, and here's the oil line. It's been thrown in and out of a truck many times, but all in all, this is going to make a nice saw for somebody. Gently push this so you don't poke a hole in it. That's your oil line. I'm going to clean this. Let's see if I can readjust you here. There, that might be better. There you go. So there we go. This one is crunchy. That sound when I was spinning it with the crank in it is the sound of death. This bearing's toast. Where's my seal puller? Right here. You guys have seen this before. It's homemade. It's just an old screwdriver. Just hook it in there. There you go. Seal goes flying. It just hooks on here and pop. So there's that. Let's do the seal on the other side. A little strapped for time today. Yes, I've just been kind of having a, there you go, there's that one. Just been kind of having a chill weekend here. I blew a hydraulic line on my mower, so I've kind of been preoccupied with that. But wanted to do a little bit of saw work, make a quick vid. Got a 281 that I'm going to be porting. That's a good buddy of mine's saw, so we'll be doing that on film. But this thought there's a lot of interest in this 461 that I figured I would start it at least. Just gonna pause you, put this up on a block and heat it. Okay, I'm back. I just put it on a block of wood so I don't burn my my bench top. It's full of oil, so I don't really feel like putting out a bench top fire today. Just a Black & Decker heat gun. I'm gonna heat these cases. 250 to 300 degrees is where I like them. I use a temp gun usually, but just heat them up and they should fall right out. If there's any pressure, needed, it's not hot enough. So otherwise you will scratch this case and you could potentially have a leak. So inside and out, get it nice and hot. Okay, let's give her a go. I'm going to heat this a little bit more. You can see it a little bit of tension on it. Okay, here are the cleaned and inspected cases. Not bad. This all looks like it's going to be pretty nice when it's done. Helps if you put the cases the right way. And tell me that saw has a lot of time on it. This goes back to why this saw failed. Chain was too tight and it was dull. I mean, look at the condition of these cases and tell me. Look at the front. Tell me that this saw was not abused. Okay, I got these cases prepped. Make sure, just inspect where the bearings go. Make sure there's no nicks, chips, scratches, you know, etc., etc. I've popped the seals. Again, I'm just trying to give info, stuff that I was questioning. I popped the seals out of these bearings. Most bearings you're going to buy from a bearing supplier are going to have seals on them. So you got to pop those out. You don't have to. Some people have ran them pre-greased. I might even try that one day just to see, but there you go. 6202 C3, same bearings that a lot of different saws take. That has no oil in it. Look how smooth it is. And your OEM STIHL bearing. I put it in a socket like this so that I can just put it right into the case. So this is, I'm going to heat the case up and stick these bearings in. And again, make sure you put the right bearing in the right case. This lip goes on the oil pump side facing out. That's most STIHLs. Okay, so I'm just going to heat these up and plop them in. Okay. Key is to work quickly. Not hot enough. Don't force it. It's close. Let's give it another go. No sir. Let's give this another go. There you go. It's flush, exactly where I want it. See, you gotta be careful with what you're doing. You just if it's not hot enough, they will not go in, and it's like you can just slowly put it in and it'll stop. So I will leave this now to cool. That bearing literally fell exactly where I wanted it to, so that's what we want to see. Let this cool down. Now we do the other side. The other side's easier. I'm just going to heat it up. Just like that. So the other side is more stubborn. Now you just let this cool down. Okay, I got a STIHL OEM gasket. Now what I'm going to do, I didn't film it. What I did with this is I sprayed some carb cleaner on it, which made it cold, and this plastic raced bearing was still warm from being sitting in the case, and I just popped that right on. So now what I'm going to do with this side, this is a metal raced bearing. You can buy a puller to pull this through. I don't have one, so this is how I do it. Or you can put the bearing on the crank and then heat the case up and drop the bearings with the crank in one go. I did that on my last video. I'm just showing yet another way to do this. So I'm going to heat this bearing back up, okay, and slip it right on. Make sure that this is nice and clean. Take your flywheel key off, and then I'll put the case bolts in that I've cleaned. So you don't need to see me heating the bearing. I'll do that off camera. Okay, this bearing should be sufficiently hot. Make sure your crankshaft is at the top. There we go. Make sure the gasket's in the right spot. Flip this over. I don't know if you can see this, but I got to do this fairly quick. I want to do this while everything's nice and warm. Put these in there. See, and this gasket has moved a little bit. Right there. Okay. Always something with saws, eh? I can see it. It's there we go. I thought I saw something that I didn't actually see. That's okay. I like to be thorough, take my time. Oh yeah, this is fine. I saw the end of the dowel, the lineup dowel. I thought it was the gasket was in the way, but okay. And now what I do is I'll pull the little bit extra, or I'll just basically pull these cases together with the screws. You don't want to pull it too far, obviously, but you can just like in my last video, you can just gently cinch it down. You'll hear that sound. That's just the sound of the bearing sliding over the crank. Put this on its side now so I can see what it's doing. It's going together nice and straight. There you go. When you do these, just try and do them as warm as possible. Not so warm that you're going to burn yourself, but when you do it warm, everything wants to go together. So this crank is slid this way. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to grab a mallet. I'm just going to pause you here. I'm going to grab a mallet and give it a little whack. Here we go. Okay, so I just use a rubber mallet. This is still warm. Okay, give it a good whack on one side. You can use a brass mallet, you can use a wood mallet. Okay, this is still a little bit stiff. Okay, beautiful. Okay, look at that. Okay, that's how I do it. There's lots of other ways. Like I said, a puller would be nice, but I've been doing it this way and works fine. Okay, cinch up the screws, make sure they're super, super tight, and this one here, 2 more case bolts here, one goes here, and again, I've never done a 461, this is my first time, so I'm learning right along with everybody that's watching this video. Move these hammers over. So what you're doing when you're hitting it is that crank was slightly off center. And this is the old school way of doing it. I know there's newer ways. The crank's slightly off center, so you give it a whack to it relieves the side tension. Now you can see that crank is dead center. That's, there we go. Okay, that's what you want. And smooth as a baby's bottom, no strange sounds. Now what I'm going to do is I take a little bit of 2-stroke oil. I use Optimal. Okay. Or a lot of 2-stroke oil, that's fine. Okay. I soak that bottom end good. I want the crank and the bearings. Oh, that's nice now. Now you can really... Okay, so we went from a blown up saw with an absolutely toast bearing. You could wiggle this crankshaft up and down about a 1/16 of an inch. I was actually concerned that the bearings spun, but it seems with these plastic raced bearings that when they let go, the entire cage, it disintegrates. Sometimes it'll get in and around the ring. I've had that happen before. Sometimes it goes through the transfer and on top of the piston and hammers the cylinder. They can do no damage, like in this case, or destroy the saw. I've had both. Not a fan of plastic bearings, but this is the world that we live in, right? I mean, this is how everything's going. So there you go. STIHL MS461 bottom end. I still got to do seals. I'm going to do that off camera because I only got one set, and if I film myself putting them in, guaranteed I will screw up. Okay, whatever. I'm feeling lucky today. They do make seal drivers for this. So if you have a hard time driving these in, get you a seal driver. There you go, one side. I had to buy a 460 kit because they didn't have crank seals separate at my dealer. That's probably the reason why you guys aren't going to see. I mean, I will do a still here and there. I like me a still, but you guys aren't going to see a ton of stills on my page. The dealer network where I live is vast, but most of the dealers where I live are not well stocked. Most of the parts guys there and gals are just trying to make sure that this starts like super straight. Most of the parts people the dealers that I go to are not extremely versed in STIHL chainsaws. So it can be pretty frustrating to try and get parts. Yeah, that one's good. It can be frustrating to get parts. I want one that's slightly bigger than this lip, which is exactly what this one is. Okay, I'm feeling lucky. I feel like my YouTube viewers deserve me messing up on camera. I feel like that went in really easy. I haven't done crank seals like this in a while, so I remember the first saw I ever built was an MS260, and no video of that on my channel. Building a bottom end was the most stressful thing I'd ever done. See, now look, nice and tight. So those seals are where I want them. See, they're nice. There's actually resistance, which is what you want. When I built my first bottom end, I was absolutely stressed out doing it. And now I just throw them together, and that's kind of, again, that's what this channel is for. I want you guys to do this stuff, guys and gals, and why not? I can do it, you can do it. You might mess up a few things. Any chainsaw builder that tells you they haven't messed up a bearing or a seal doing exactly what I'm doing, I mean, I have. Everybody I know that builds saws has. You're gonna do it too. That's just the way it goes. You want to cut this. You want to cut this gasket off. There's always a little lip. Okay, you want to flush cut it with a good sharp knife without wrecking the case. Same thing with this side. Try not to drop it in the bottom end. If you do, it happens. You'll get her back out. And if you don't, it'll probably just fire its way out the exhaust. I don't recommend that, but there you go. So realistically, this saw is ready for reassembly. I can do the entire bottom end. I'm going to pause you here, and I'm going to show you something else about this saw, something that I noticed. Okay, here's the completed bottom end. Seals are in. Seals are nice and tight. I'm happy about that. Bottom end is oiled. Bearings are oiled. Doesn't get much better than this. I'm going to let this thing sit oiled for the next week. I'll put a towel over it, because things have a way of working their way into chainsaws when they're sitting open. And that'll be it. That'll be it for this week on this saw. Back to work tomorrow. I'm sure a lot of you feel my pain. And yeah, 461 bottom end lives again. As always, thanks for watching. Take her easy.